Thank you so much for joining me today, Pam. It's great to see you again and appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys taking the time continuously since before I arrived, while I was there, and afterwards. It's just extraordinary what you guys are doing.
Mm, appreciate that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Yeah. So, Pam, if I'm not mistaken, you and I would have connected for a call, I'm going to say about 6 to 8 months ago.
Mhm.
Do you recall what was going on in your life at that time that had led you to reach out to explore 5-MeO as something that might be able to assist you in your life at that point?
Yeah. So a couple things were going on. Particularly, the thing that had introduced the concept of five to me was that a cousin took part in a trial, a medical trial for treatment resistant depression. And the five had done absolutely unbelievable work for her across two different sessions with facilitators. And what she was describing was just unbelievable. I mean, the change that she experienced in her core was extraordinary. I don't know what other word to use. And I had myself been, I guess, about a year on a psychedelic journey. And I say psychedelic sort of loosely. I had really started with empathogens, heart openers, for a long time, and had only recently begun to try psilocybin, which it took me 4 times to have an outward expression of psilocybin. And I had tried ayahuasca once and as well didn't have an outward expression. I know the medicines are working internally. And
Mm.
so, five to me was an opportunity to maybe fight my strong, skilled, and I guess cunning control brain to really pull myself into a different place where I could feel more, where I could, I don't know, be myself more. And those are the two things that sort of came together in time and space to have me out looking. And once I saw the pictures and read the amount of work that goes into this, that it's not just coming and having a one time quick experience, I was intrigued.
Yeah, had psychedelics or substance use, inner exploration using psychedelics or entheogens been a part of your life prior to, say, a year or two ago? Yeah.
No, my sister was raised where a drug is a drug is a drug and drugs are bad. And I mean, I don't even do cannabis or pot. I've had no experience with it. And I think what first happened, my sister is a PhD psychologist, and she had started doing some research into the MDMA and psilocybin studies and started talking to me about those. And I thought, this isn't drugs. I know MDMA is as ecstasy, and that to me always felt like a drug. And so she and I began talking about it in 2023, which is what finally got me to reaching out to find a facilitator who was able to work with me with plant medicines.
How do you feel that prior work, if it did, led you to explore something stronger
I would
like five?
never have been open to five if I hadn't started with some of the more basic medicines. And I say I would have never. To be fair, I have met people through the program and even since who effectively started their journeys with five. So it's certainly, I'm not saying it's not advisable. I just don't think I would have been open to the concept of doing something that big early on. So I kind of come into midlife. I'm 50 now, and this all was kind of starting and percolating when I was 48, with this sense of dis-ease that something in my wonderful life was amiss. I've always loved my work. I've had great friends. I've had this wonderful life, but something was bugging me. And for the first time, work was not doing it for me.
Mhm.
And and that is what ultimately led me first to the medicines, to try to figure out what is this thing that I'm feeling that's so new for me. And that opening, I learned that one, there was something called being, not just doing. I said, oh, we had a word for that growing up. That was lazy. It was a 4 letter word, lazy. And this state of being that I can be in is pretty phenomenal. Two, the first experience with the plants, this was just Kana and sassafras, was that there were no expectations and no restrictions, that I could just freely feel myself, be with myself, experience myself, and that was absolutely beautiful. Because I think for me, I've always been a big extrovert, and I've always thought this is, wonderful and it's a positive. And I think I realize now that I was seeking regulation from outside myself, whether that was acceptance, love, being told that I was okay, being told that I was great, whether that was professionally or personally. I was using the outside world to regulate myself. And these medicines showed me that very clearly all of that's within me. I just need to know how to access it. So I've gone from this very sort of mind forward, professionally defined person to being this whole human who has these really wonderful insights that I actually now get to experience myself for the first time.
Mm, incredible. Yeah, I think that will be helpful for many people to hear. And you eloquently just touched on it. But for people who might look at somebody like you, a very professionally successful woman, given that you've undergone this journey now as somebody who's traditionally successful, have you spoken with others who, inhabit the same world as you and are maybe curious, like, why would a person do this? What was the benefit of going through something like this for somebody who has a lot of things, on paper that would exemplify or represent a traditionally successful life?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the word destabilize is what probably comes to mind for me when I've spoken with people who are professionally successful and maybe their family life is going well, their kids, everything seems to be going well. I think the biggest concern is why would I destabilize this? Everything is going well. And from my perspective, I don't know. I guess I see this in sort of two different ways. My path brought me to my own level of discomfort that I was looking to overcome or at least investigate. Where was this coming from? And I think for other people who may not yet have that kind of midlife, is this all there is? What am I missing? I would just say there is a level to most of us, other than the most enlightened humans on the planet, that we just don't know. And this world isn't designed to help us find it anymore. I think maybe millennia ago, there may have been a world that was more open to us exploring and existing with this great sense of interior self, this interior world. And now it feels like everything that I got kudos for and accolades for was the doing, not the being. The achievement, the performance, I mean, that started way early in my life. The things that my parents were most congratulatory of were the things that existed between my two ears, the things that I accomplished because of my mind. And I wasn't, I mean, if I danced around the house, it was like, okay, okay, I guess she's dancing, whatever. It was never sort of like bringing that joy out in me. And now I realize that's been in me the entire time. I just haven't really had access to it because it's been so minimized and then just kind of pushed down. And now here I am, and I feel like I have both lanes available to me, both avenues, available going forward.
Hmm. Yeah, I love how you put that. You have access to both modes of being and existing, because I feel like some people, if they were really scrutinizing what you're saying, they might, skeptically say, "Oh, this sounds like a person who used to be able to
Mm.
really accomplish things and was really driven, and now they're more relaxed and lazy," as you sort of touched on it and put it. What would you say to people who might be skeptically receiving it in that way?
Oh, it's just a new skill. You're not getting rid of any other skills. You're not becoming something different. You're becoming more. You're adding this expansive space, this ability. I mean, in very, I don't know, professional terms, I guess I would say I had a bias for action, always a bias for action, always ready to go, as if, I'm constantly ready to have a ball thrown at me. And
Mm.
now I just have more space, and that space presents itself as a more regulated nervous system, a calmer demeanor, an ability to respond rather than react. But that doesn't mean that I have stopped or am less capable professionally at all or with my mind at all. It's not like I've lost an edge. It's that I've gained a skill set and I can go back and forth now as much as I want or combine those two in the same moment.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
It's almost as if you've learned a new skill or skills
Yes.
to add to the existing skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the me that I've uncovered through, or still am, I mean, it's going to be a lifelong pursuit, but the me that I have discovered and continue to discover underneath is much more sensitive. I think I used to sort of throw that in the realm of weaker, softer, less capable. And now I realize I was living life until, call it 3 years ago, fully in my masculine. Everything was hard charging, driven toward a goal. There was always a goal. There was something to attain, something to achieve, some way to perform. And now I've come to realize that there's a sensitivity and a vulnerability in me that itself has strength. It's a different kind of strength, but it allows me to more appreciate the path that I'm on and have this really visceral gut feeling that as I put my foot down in whatever direction, the path is appearing under me. I'm not Calvinist. This is not predestination, but that the path is continuing to appear before me and bring to me what I need. It's like we talk about the medicine meeting us where we are, and I feel like the path is meeting me where I am. And so I guess I would say, as I've sort of shifted energetically from being almost fully in my masculine to having more of a balance and maybe even favoring my feminine side, is that I'm able to enjoy everything more. I'm more present. It's, oh, how does Tara Brach say it? You don't want to live life hoping that the next moment is going to have something that this moment doesn't. And this
Mm.
work allows me to appreciate this moment for exactly what it is. It's a beautiful moment. And whatever comes forward, comes after this, just tends to present itself.
Mm. Sounds like you're meeting each moment as it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as it is and as I am.
Mhm.
And again, doesn't make me less successful. It just gives me another tool, and it helps me. I think as we are self-regulated, we are actually saving our own life force, our energy, which is our life force, for a
Mhm.
better use than sort of the, you know, crazy get everything done.
Fabulous. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And so, yeah, shifting gears a bit, Pam, to your in-person on-site
Mhm.
experience here with us at Enfold. What do you recall was the first shift or first, yeah, perhaps what felt like a breakthrough experience where, whether that was, in the first meet the medicine ceremony
Mhm.
or perhaps even before, is there a moment that stands out as the first memory?
I think the first was, I don't know what you call it, but the intake form that we all filled out that
Hmm.
asked such beautifully probing questions about our family of origin, who we are, how we see ourselves, the roles that we've played. I don't remember all the questions, but I remember as I was sitting there filling this out, it was a clear indication of the level of work that I was about to do with you and the team, and the very intentional program that you guys have designed. This is not show up and do a drug or do a plant, or it's this process. So I would say that was the first shift in me was, oh, okay, let's really sit down and answer some of these questions honestly and thoughtfully. And then, getting on site, yeah, the introduction to the medicine was, I didn't have an expectation. Well, let me take that back. Because psilocybin and ayahuasca had both not overcome my mental defenses, I think I thought that maybe in the meet the medicine ceremony the same thing might happen, and I was wrong. It was absolutely beautiful. The fact that we were dosing ourselves, that we were in control of how much we were taking, and figuring out what that kind of line was, where we wanted to be. It's a very embodied medicine, where we wanted to be in our experience in our bodies, at least was for me. I thought that was beautiful and wonderful, and we could dial it up, dial it down. So it felt like we were honoring ourselves to be able to meet the medicine in this way. I would be completely remiss though if I didn't mention all of the other ways that we were brought together, whether it was through the hikes or meditation or meals. But all of these different elements came together to make this experience embodied and to meet us all in so many different ways on so many different levels. It's impossible to escape from it as an individual. There's always going to be something there that's being offered that reaches you. And then obviously the full release was everything in that moment. And then Thursday, the reactivations, both in the sauna and cold plunge, as well as during that breath work, were just magical. I don't We all know the medicine is out of our bodies, and yet there was a way to reactivate that medicine. And that still makes no sense to my brain, and it makes every bit of sense to my heart and my spirit. It was so well done, so thoughtful. It was like you've created this little womb, this little cocoon that we're all held in while we're on campus. And then as we go off into our lives, we don't leave that cocoon. It's just that the cocoon gets bigger, but we're still
Mm.
part of this beautiful program and beautiful group of people, whether it's the small group of six that we were part of or this larger community that we're all invited to be part of.
Yeah, it's been beautiful to see you at many of our community events and gatherings and meditations. And I love how you put that, just expanding the cocoon. And that's a big part of all of our work, to expand our personal cocoon to include more and more people
Yeah.
compassionately.
I remember
Yeah.
my cousin said after her five experience, because she was just part of a trial, it was just her and two facilitators twice. And she did have a therapy that came along with that, but she had no, or has no community at all to be doing this
Hmm.
work. And she said the hardest thing for her was coming out and not having anyone. And so I was able to meet her a bit there just from having been on my own medicine journey. But after five, she and I have found a depth in our relationship that just 50 years later, right? I mean, we're finding it was really, I think it's been important for me to find other individuals who are on this seeking journey as well, and seeing it through her eyes and witnessing what this means to her just underscores that.
Hmm. Yeah. Have you noticed any changes or a difference in how you show up for the people in your life and in your own community as a result of what you experienced through 5-MeO?
Oh yeah. I mean, I show up as more present, as more open, as more flexible, as more vulnerable. I show up more as me. I had
Mm.
a conversation with my sister last night that I wouldn't normally have had with her, because I was simply talking about a feeling that I was having about our relationship that I couldn't yet put into words. But that was okay. I didn't need to know and be sure of exactly what I was going to say in that call. I was able to just speak from a place of feeling and emotions and heart that had her meet me in a very different way than she normally meets me as well. And I attribute that to this tail on five that has been putting me into more and more positions like this consistently. And they keep on going well. They keep on showing me that to be fully embodied as myself without trying to make anything perfect or good or right or get the accolade or the applause or the acceptance works. It works really well. And I think when we show up as ourselves and don't have whatever the mask is on, whatever the armor is on, again, we're more true to ourselves. We feel more relaxed. We feel more genuine, and expend less energy.
Hmm. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I would, of course, be remiss, Pam, if I didn't ask you if you're open to sharing with regard to your full release ceremony and what that was like.
Yeah. It was wonderful. I had Steve sitting in front of me. I had both the intramuscular and the inhaled versions. And as I inhaled, Steve's beautiful face just pixelated. These perfect white little pixels just kind of went out. And I just remember leaning back in this bath of white energy, just very positive white energy. And what is so different about this medicine than any of the other psychedelics is typically a psychedelic, you're awake and alert, and in the psychedelic you're having a psychedelic experience, you're speaking through it, you have enough of your brain online that you can form words, that you can form speech, that you can walk, whatever it may be. And on five, I went back, and all of those control centers went offline. And I mean that in the most beautiful way. I from the videos that I've seen of what occurred, I was completely unaware, but I was screaming. I was sort of tossing my head back and forth. I was moving my body in some really big, open, wild ways. And then at some point, system starts coming online. I was going to say brain, but it's almost like your entire system gets plugged back in. And it felt to me, this is a strange analogy maybe, but it felt to me like there was a computer just sitting on a desk. And at some point, and this is as I was coming to, a plug was plugged into the computer, that plug went into the wall, a monitor started coming up, but it was it felt like a very slow evolution of my brain and my system coming back online. And there was such a beauty in it. I was in this liminal space of feeling so much of my own body and soul, and just feeling like, oh, like, don't put the brain back in, don't, not yet, doc, just don't put the brain back in, because it's at the same time a complete nothingness and an everythingness. It's like I entered this beautiful energetic flow that everything is part of. When people talk about psychedelics, they'll often say, I felt one with the universe. And for some reason, for me, it it doesn't quite feel like that. One with the universe feels like I melded with the universe. And this is a little bit different. It was everything is in the energetic flow. I'm in that flow with the universe, with everything I've ever seen, experienced, any human I've ever met, interacted with. But everything is equal. The universe seems so big, and me blending into it seems like this very small part. And in this energetic flow, everything was just part of it, not a removable part of it. It was a wholeness. And as I came to those things that the world teaches us about control and expectations and judgments, all of that slowly came online, and it felt burdensome. It felt heavy. It felt unnecessary. And I think the first words that came into my mind once, language came back online was, I'm not your good girl. And I'm not sure, but I think the first thing I said to Steve and Austin was, did I say it? Did I say I'm not your good girl? And they said, no, you didn't say it. And I said, it's like a neon light in my head right now. I'm not your good girl. And what that meant for me was all these ways that I've been told I could or should be by the outside world, by my parents, by society, by my schools, by my profession, whatever it's been. There have been all these messages about what I could or should do to be a good human. And a lot of them are unnecessary, because our birthright is that we are lovable and that we are perfectly imperfect. And there's nothing that I need to do to be lovable and to be acceptable and to be whole. And that feeling coming out of 5 was intense. That like, you've arrived in your own self, in your own life, and you don't need the external world to tell you anything about that.
Yeah. Are there things that you're still processing or still working on that perhaps were brought up or catalyzed by the beautiful experience that you just described?
Oh, yeah. 5 is like an extended release life changer. I mean, it's like the tail on this is so long, and the tail requires some partnership, I guess, from me. And that is to put in place practices that support my continued interaction with myself and with the medicine. And how do I say this? Remind me to listen. Remind me to keep my ears open. I've had so many shifts over the past, what is it now, 5 months. I think most obvious is a nervous system reset. So myself, my mother, my sister, we all run a bit high anxious or tightly wound. And again, that is this sense that we have to do things perfectly or we have to perform. And there's a sensitivity now that I have that I didn't have before. I think sensitivity for me felt like a weakness in the past. And now this sensitivity is like a gift. And again, for those people who may think, oh, I don't have time to deal with emotions. Why would you put emotions into my life? It's not overwhelming emotions. It's an openness to the emotions. It's an openness to interacting with the emotions, not that they take over and they run away with you. So I think that's been a gift. Steve said before I went into actually, it was the night before the full release. He said, "Come here, I want to tell you something, or I want to posit something to you." He pulled me aside in the living room and he said to me, quite simply, "What if this is easy?" And I was like, "Oh, Steve, no, I'm great with doing 5. I've sort of done my processing." And he said, "No, no, 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 not 5. What if life is easy?" And I was like, "What? How can you just throw this at me? Like that's going to be a thing?" I mean, if that's true, what is this game that I've been playing in my life that's been full of challenge? Oh, Steve, don't just drop that. And it turns out, coming out of 5, the first thought was, "I'm not your good girl." And the second thought, as I became sort of, as I really opened my eyes and became aware, was, "Oh God, Steve. Oh, Steve. Oh, how dare you?" I mean, I'm not going to curse on your podcast, but
You
how
spoiled the
dare
ending.
you?
Yeah.
There is this sense of ease now in me that is,
Mhm.
it's every day, it's every moment. I now wake up regularly in this liminal space that I can enjoy for anywhere, depending on the day and how much time I have, 5 minutes before I get up or an hour before I get up. It's a field of sensation in my body that I've never had before. Tingling is not quite the right word, but it's the only word I really have. I can feel and sense my body from head to hands to feet and everything in between. And I can do it without my brain coming online and interfering and starting to make me want to do things. I can just sit in this being space with myself. It's like I'm an extrovert who's found the pleasure of my own company. I can almost revisit that liminal space. And so I feel like a lot of the things that I'm doing now, sound baths included, are a way of accessing peace and quiet and ease, and doing that a lot more now on my own than I've ever done, I think, previously. And perhaps some of that quiet is because I'm not listening for the outside world, I'm listening for myself.
Mm, beautiful. It sounds like, yeah, in a way, your awareness has expanded from that solely of an outward orientation to one that is both outwardly and inwardly focused
Yes.
with, it's, yeah, fabulous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I cannot say, it sounds so trite to say there's more ease in my life, but to go from this sense of dis-ease of what is going on, I'm not feeling entirely myself, to feeling a completely better version of myself has just been extraordinary. And for me now, I'm single. I got divorced 3 years ago, and I think a lot of my previous nervous system was looking for the external regulation of a man in my life. And now I'm in this place where I realize I can do the self regulation now in a way that I wasn't as capable of earlier. And so now the invitation for someone to join my life is, I'm looking for someone beautiful to join my beautiful life. And I don't need them
Mm.
to regulate me. It takes this weight and necessity out of that relationship. And I've gone from sort of grasping for that to just kind of being open to that it'll come when it comes, and I don't need to push for it. And that itself is a sense of ease.
I get the sense, Pam, that a lot of your life beforehand, and I think a lot of people will relate to this, was spent looking ahead and living in the future rather than just being centered right now and meeting the circumstances of each moment as they come rather than try to preemptively
Absolutely.
map out what they would be like and how we can, face those things that we think are coming. So,
Yeah, and
yeah, thank you for
that
sharing that.
that stance, that way to approach life, almost necessarily means that something's wrong with the way things are today. That there is some
Mm,
place I need to go, that there is something I need to do to be happy or to be content. And so then that puts a condition in between me and happiness, or in between me and contentedness. And now I feel like every moment has this richness and this beauty to it. And the idea that the path is unfolding right before my eyes means that I'm not focused on the distance, on the horizon, and missing all the wonderful things that sit literally right at my feet on a daily basis. It also means that I choose more thoughtfully what I let in, what I take into my system, because I'm the one who's now responsible for my own regulation. And so, how I consume anything, whether it's as simple as the news and the media, and I've not been a social media person, I've been off of that my entire life, but how I allow individuals to impact me, people who I know, people who I don't know, people who I just run into in the course of a day, all of that means that the way that I'm coming to every moment with a different level of respect for the goodness of that moment.
Hmm.
And that is ease. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, Pam. Yeah. Yeah. You've done such a beautiful job of articulating what a person can expect and the range of experiences that a person can have and how that can impact one's life moving forward from an experience like this. I wonder, Pam, invariably there will be some number of people listening to this or watching this at some point in the future who think they might be feeling a call towards 5-MeO, but perhaps they're a little hesitant because they've heard things like it's the most powerful psychedelic on earth. Things like that will reasonably, you know, create pause in a person. But I'm curious if you have anything that you would share, any pieces of advice as somebody who's been through an experience like this now and has received its benefits. Anything that you would say to somebody who's perhaps feeling a call towards this experience, but is on the fence and unsure if this is something that they want to move forward with?
Yeah, early on, working with my own therapist, going into some of my early journeys with plant medicines, we came up with the intention of open, curious, and brave. And that's the intention I've brought to all of these experiences. I think, regardless of where we are, the medicine is going to meet us in that place. We don't need to know what we need. We don't need to understand what's ahead on the journey. The plants are just here, or in this case, the five is just here to meet me, to meet us where we are, and to help create space in all of our lives. I mean, for anyone who's looking for more love, more self love, more self worth, and more space to inhabit their own body and soul and experience spirit, this is an unbelievable entry point. The medicine itself is not the fix. The medicine is the opening of a doorway. And once you walk through that doorway, you're going into it with a slightly different skill set, because that the medicine, I think, has opened you to learning what you already know. I think part of this journey for me is, I think early I expected that knowledge came from the outside. And now I'm realizing time and time again, the really deep learning is coming from inside of me. And if that sounds intriguing, this doorway, this medicine opens that doorway onto a path that I don't know, at least in my experience, that has just been all goodness, has been all becoming myself.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate so much you taking the time today, Pam. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't touched on that's top of mind for you that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I will say is just this deep sense of gratitude for what you guys have created. Certainly, there are ways of doing this thing and then going home. And I just can't imagine that that is as beneficial to us as having this unbelievable cocoon that you guys create, from the work that we do prior to ever even showing up, to the thoughtfulness of introducing us to our groups before we get on site, to the entire week long of work. And nothing during that week is not curated and thoughtfully designed. I mean, nothing. From the amazing bookshelf with all of the terrific books, to the work that comes afterwards, the integration with your own small group, with your 6-person group, to the integrations that you guys offer going forward, all of the resources, to therapists, to somatic therapy coaches, to integration coaches, to your angel program. I mean, you guys have put together a sort of endless cocoon of options and opportunities for all of us to stay in this work. And I think that's so key. This is a huge door being opened. This is nothing to be trifled with. It's a massive door, but you have to continue to engage your own self and life with this work for it to really have its full effect.
Well, thank you, Pam. The gratitude is well received, and runs both ways. We're, yeah, incredibly grateful for your share here today and just your presence in our community. You're really
Well, get ready
pleased
because I'm
and
coming
grateful to
back.
have
I
you.
don't know when I'm
Yeah.
coming back, but
All right.
there's more work to be done here. I think I've been excited to see how this tale kind of works, but there's more work.
Hmm. Well, we'll be pleased to receive you if and when that happens. And again, thank you so much for taking the
Yeah.
time today, Pam. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.